Leipzig, Germany, 2010. Biologists, led by Svante Pääbo of the Max Planck Institute for Evolutionary Anthropology, make a stunning announcement. They have determined that early humans not only coexisted on Earth with other more primitive hominids, they also mated with them. But even more astonishing was their finding that another, as yet unidentified species, may also be represented in human DNA.
Up until now, most people have been familiar with the typical DNA model of human evolution, in which you have a very nicely defined progression from previous types of human or hominid life up to anatomically modern humans. That's not true anymore. And what we're seeing is evidence that there could have been interbreeding with what the actual mainstream media is calling mystery species of humans.
There's a big debate over Neanderthals and others, whether they had sexual contact in humans. But if there were primates already here who had evolved by Darwinian evolution, it's not a big step to take the next step and create a cross.
An anthropologist from the University of Wisconsin, Dr. John Hawks, did a comprehensive analysis of human DNA going back for many thousands of years, and what he found was astonishing. If you look at the DNA from someone in 3000 BC, and you compare that to the DNA of someone alive today, it has changed by 7%.
Mapping the human genome, Dr. Hawks found that in the past 5,000 years, our DNA has evolved at a rate 100 times greater than any previous 5,000-year period in our history.
So what happened in the last 5,000 years that altered the structure of human DNA by 7%? Is it possible that extraterrestrial humans interbred with us sometime in the last 5,000 years, and that could account for these monumental changes in the structure of human DNA?
Could it be that our ancestors are not only hominids who lived here on Earth, but also beings from beyond our world? Ancient astronaut theorists claim that evidence of this can be found in stories throughout history that depict humans mating with gods.
Throughout world cultures and mythologies, this idea of otherworldly beings, gods, supernatural beings, demons, having sex with humans is very, very common. The way that we interpret that experience depends on the cultural and religious factors around us.
We can read about these accounts of all sorts of weird beings who had their way with humans. All we have to do is to approach these stories and look at them from a modern perspective, to eliminate the always suggested symbolism and look at these events for what they potentially really were: encounters with extraterrestrials.
There is abundant, undeniable evidence of human and extraterrestrial interbreeding. It's in so many different cultures that to suggest that it's all a conspiracy theory or a myth or a fantasy is completely illogical.
Pacific Palisades, California, July 17th, 2015, 5 p.m. Police are alerted that inside an abandoned SUV parked on a residential street is a dead body. The badly decomposed corpse is sent to the coroner's office so that identification of the victim can be made. Although foul play is not suspected, as police continue to investigate, the case takes a bizarre turn. The body is identified by his fiancée as 60-year-old Jeffrey Allen Lash. Los Angeles police find more than 1,200 guns and 7 tons of ammunition, along with numerous militarized vehicles and $230,000 in cash inside of his home. His fiancée reports that Lash had proclaimed to be an alien hybrid, secretly working for the government.
But it's the weirdest story I think I've ever heard. His girlfriend, and she seems to be pretty normal and legit, claims that he's an alien hybrid, that he was placed on this planet to do something specifically. Nothing adds up about his case, nothing.
When examining the body, the coroner's office could not find any fingerprints, even though fingerprints are the last skin tissue to decompose.
Lash apparently had no fingerprints. His fiancée believed that he was an alien hybrid. And we have to wonder who this guy was. Was he really an alien hybrid, as he said? Why did he have all these weapons?
Within the UFO research community, there's been a great deal of controversy surrounding Lash's story because there's been a suggestion that his father, Jeffrey Lash, may have worked on the Roswell incident crash. That's to say, he was a scientist who may have been brought in to study the wreckage. And so for that reason, the story has been elevated to an even bigger level, that there was some sort of infiltration of society going on.
A number of people who have claimed that they've been abducted by extraterrestrials also claim that they've witnessed what they say are alien human hybrids. And this would indicate that the extraterrestrials have a program of manipulating people and their DNA to genetically alter us slightly. And perhaps this has been going on for thousands of years, and that even as we are today, we've been manipulated subtly by extraterrestrials, and this is still going on.
Is it possible that there are already aliens living among us, and that our governments are fully aware of this? Could this be the culmination of years of extraterrestrial abductions?
Our decisions here as a species could very well be affecting these other civilizations. So they may be, in a sense, intervening on their own behalf. They might not really care about whether we make it or not.
If invasion and takeover of the planet were the goal of these extraterrestrial biological entities, they are so advanced, it could be done easily. Therefore, invasion and takeover of the world cannot be their goal. And if that is not the goal, then what is the goal? What is the alien agenda?
You have a sort of dichotomy of, are we being invaded by terrible extraterrestrials who are trying to take over our planet? Or are the extraterrestrials really trying to help us, and that this has been an ongoing thing for many thousands of years?
I think these abduction stories are all part of a larger plan. A plan going on for a very long time. This, what we are experiencing now, is the next step, where we are now learning that we are not alone and that they soon will come back, because that is what they promised in the ancient texts.
September 19th, 1961. According to news accounts, Betty and Barney Hill were driving through New Hampshire late at night when a large flying saucer rapidly approached them and then hovered over their car. They saw strange figures through the windows of the craft. And mysteriously, the couple also reported complete memory loss of the 2 hours immediately following the encounter.
No one really knows to this day what Betty and Barney Hill saw. However, the details of their case do reflect on various other versions of alien abduction. I say alien abduction because some of the pieces of information that they discuss, the loss of time, seeing beings that actually came out of this craft and associated and interacted with them, and they weren't human.
Ultimately, under hypnosis, they recall being brought out of the car and taken aboard the ship, that it was a legitimate abduction, and that Betty pleaded with her captors, if you will, that not to harm her as she laid on this table, and experiments were done on her, like a needle being inserted into her stomach. Barney relates a number of skin samples and sperm being taken from him.
The beings described by Betty and Barney Hill fit the classic case of a gray. Now, there are variations to size and dimensions of these beings, but they all seem to have the same characteristics. Slim, skindly bodies, large oval heads, large oversized eyes.
The Hills were the first documented case of an alien abduction in modern time. But it is not the last. Since the 1960s, there have been many more similar reports, including that of Kim Carlsberg, a commercial photographer, who in 1988 claimed to have been abducted by gray aliens in the middle of the night.
We were living on the beach in Pacific Palisades, and I walked up to the window and I saw this light on the horizon that I'd never seen before. You know, I'd lived on the beach my whole life, and it wasn't a boat and it wasn't a star. I just watched this craft. The next thing I knew, it jetted into the stars and disappeared, and I went to bed as usual. I woke up in the middle of the night and I was not in my bed any longer. I was naked and I was paralyzed. The beings I saw were about 3.5 feet tall. They were naked. They were off-white. They were not gray. They had huge heads, huge wrap-around black eyes, tiny little bodies.
There are many stories of grays abducting humans into their spaceships, and even of being inseminated with alien reproductive material and then conceiving human-alien hybrid babies and having those fetuses removed from their bodies and then grown on the alien spaceships. In some cases, people report going back onto the spaceship and being able to see these hybrid offspring.
I was being used for my DNA. They were creating hybrid children from my eggs, someone else's sperm, and combining it with their DNA and their sperm. I would be implanted with an alien fetus, and they would leave the fetus in my body for a few months. Then they would bring me back again later, and then they would remove it. It was horrific. It was terrifying.
You can't have so many people saying that they've been abducted and not have some possibility of truth with that. I think it's happening. I don't know if it's a hybridization program for these ETs or whether they're trying to bring these hybrids back to this planet one day when the environment changes. But in my opinion, something very strange is happening to these people who claim to be abducted.
Ancient astronaut theorist Georgios Tsoukalos visits the Ventura Biocenter to examine one of Earth's most curious creatures, the bombardier beetle. This little bug is a marvel of evolution, or some say, intelligent design.
Peter, good to see you.
Nice
How
to
are
see
you?
And this
All
is
right.
Tom.
Hi. Hello, Tom.
Nice to meet
Pleasure.
you.
How's it going?
Tom is our insect wrangler and is going to help us set up a demonstration on one of the coolest animals on Earth, the bombardier beetle.
That's fantastic, because about a year ago, Eric von Daniken gave me his latest manuscript for his newest book. And we all know that there are these multiple creatures that seem to defy Darwinian evolution. And one creature that jumped out at me that I hadn't heard before was this beetle right here.
This beetle is fascinating from an evolutionary point of view, and in fact, it's been used by many people to suggest that evolution doesn't work at all. And the reason is the enormous complexity of this thing. This animal is a chemical warrior. It's able to shoot out boiling hot streams of a really toxic liquid that have the same sort of mix as rocket fuel.
That's amazing.
And it could shoot over 500 of these bursts per second. But the process happens so fast, it's almost in a blink of an eye. So we have a high-speed camera over here that can shoot about 2,500 frames per second. And with that camera, we can slow down this process. And in seeing that process, we can work out the exact sequence of events. So let's set this up with Tom and watch this take place.
Let's do it.
Okay guys, so what I've got is some non-toxic, very mild adhesive, and I'm just gonna touch it to the beetle's back, and that will suspend him in the air. We're gonna give him a little bit of stimulation with these forceps. Simulates the predator and makes him feel defensive. Oh, there it was.
While it is almost imperceptible to the naked eye, with the high-speed camera, the beetle can be seen blasting rapid-fire streams of deadly chemicals directed at any would-be predator.
Oh,
There it
wow,
goes.
how cool.
Projected it in that particular direction.
Right. You can actually see the squirts, the mist, the vapor.
The appendage which allows this to happen can rotate, it can move back and forth, so it can shoot this in lots of different directions.
Yeah, this is really awesome.
Dr. Ward has set up a computer-generated model of the bombardier beetle to show Giorgio the incredible process that is taking place inside its body.
You've got the organs that produce the chemicals, and two separate chemicals are being made. We've got this hydroquinone, which is actually a makeup of the organics of the creature. It's part of its external skeleton. The second one is a chemical called hydrogen peroxide, which is rocket fuel. Now, if we combine these two together in a chamber, what we can do is build this chemical material that's going to get really hot and blast out the back of the bug. So one of the coolest things about this whole system, it's got a one-way valve. Once this chemical concoction that's getting really hot starts reacting, the last thing you want is having to blast back into the interior of your body. So it can direct it, squirts out this super hot, super toxic material into that predator's face.
And one has to wonder, what was the evolutionary process of this beetle for that defense mechanism to even exist?
Yeah, that's the critical question. If evolution takes place in step by step, what's the intermediate? How does this thing not blow itself up as it's experimenting through time? How do you go from just a garden variety beetle to a super beetle like this?
One has to wonder if this creature perhaps was brought here in its finished form, or at least the genetic material for this creature came here as a finished product.
Could the physiology of the bombardier beetle be proof that there are animals on this planet of extraterrestrial design? The gases that the beetle emits can burn the skin of humans, and if the mechanism it holds within its body was constructed on a larger scale, it could be a very deadly chemical weapon. Is it possible that aliens place certain creatures on this planet so that humans can learn from them and recreate their abilities?